Hi all, welcome to Liquid Earth. I'm Age, and today we're going to take a look at creating some stunning black and white landscape images. Now often when you take an image in daylight, it can come out quite bland. This image is one of those examples. This was taken in Wales and it was quite overcast. The sky is very white and there's really subdued colours in the landscape. So it would be an ideal photo, I think, to convert into a stunning black and white. So let's take a look at how we do that, and then we'll save that as a preset and show you how to apply that very quickly to any other image. Now when we go through the edits, I'm going to explain a little bit more about what I'm doing so that you can learn exactly how to replicate that and get used to what the functions actually do. But if you just want to follow along like you normally do, then feel free. You can just follow along and at the end save your settings as a preset, which I'll show you how to do. I've also saved the final output as a preset that you can download in the information below. So first of all, we want to change this image to a black and white. So press the three little rectangles and then we can choose an option. Well, let's just start with Adobe Monochrome and press the tick button. So now we've changed to a black and white image, but we want to enhance and really pull out some details. So go to the light, and in the light we're going to start to make some adjustments. I'm not yet going to adjust the exposure, and I wouldn't normally adjust the exposure and save this as a preset. And that's because every image is unique, and often if we want to adjust exposure, apply the preset first and then adjust the exposure afterwards. Contrast we're going to leave because we're going to do that with the curves. But highlights, if we move the highlights down, we bring some more detail into the sky, and that's because it's taking the highlights and it's making them darker. We can make the highlights lighter, and in some instances that's useful. But let's come down quite a way this time, and we're going to go down to -75. Shadows is the opposite, and what shadows does is it takes the dark parts of the images and makes them lighter if we move it to the right and darker if we move it to the left. Now I'm going to bring the shadows up a little bit to +17, but I'm going to offset that with the blacks. So if we go to the blacks, I can move the black slider down to the left, similar to the shadows. If you move it to the left, the dark areas get darker, and if you move it to the right, the dark areas get brighter. But because I want to add some contrast to this image, I'm going to move it to the left. And unlike the shadows, this only affects the very deepest blacks and dark greys. So I'm going to move that down to -57. And if we click and hold on the image, we can already see some of the differences that we're making. Whites is similar to highlights, but only affects the whites and the very brightest greys. Again, we can pull that down because the sky is so light. We can make that a little bit darker and add some detail into our sky. So let's pull that down to, let's say, -81. Now I talked about contrast, and yes, although we can add some contrast here, I prefer to do it in the curves. For the curves, choose the multicolored icon, press at the top and move that up. This is what's called an S curve. Press at the bottom and move it down. Now the bottom area, in fact if I just set the middle part, the bottom area adjusts the dark parts of the image. So move it up, the darks get lighter, and the opposite if you move it down. Same for the lights. The lights is at the top here. So if we move the top down, you can see the lights get darker or they get lighter as we move it up. Now here's a typical S-curve, but this time actually I'm going to move the lights down because I want to get some more detail out of the brighter parts of the image of the sky. So let's move that down to around here and press done. Next is our effects. You've got temperature and tint, but we haven't got vibrance and saturation because that particularly affects the colours only. However, if you go into the mix, now you've got the brightness of each of the colours. Now remember, this image, if we press the before, was mainly greens. So let's choose the green icon here and let's change our luminance. Now we can brighten up those green areas and look what happens. Or we can darken them down, but that makes it pretty flat actually and blends into the surrounding pixels. So let's make some of those green areas even brighter. So +55. Again, you've got the before and the after, and now we've really made a difference to our image. Press done. Let's go to our next icon down, which is our effects. And now if I double click on the image, we can zoom in just to show you what the effects does. So let's choose this area here. Now texture adds some clarity and some contrast to the image. It's different to the clarity though, it's more subtle. So if we was to choose texture and move it right up, you can see what it's done to the rocks. Or you move it down, it actually softens the image. Clarity is similar, but it's actually much harsher. It's okay for some images. It's soft on the left and it's sharp and detailed on the right. It's one of those sliders that's easy to overdo, and although it looks great to start with, you get fed up with it being far too high. This image though, I'm going to use the more subtle one, which is the texture, and let's move that up to plus 36. Double click on the image just to bring it back down again. If you want to add a vignette, you can darken the corners or you can lighten the corners. I'm not going to add a vignette to this particular image. And finally we're going to go into our details and we're going to sharpen our image. So let's bring that up to plus 81. Masking I use quite often, and what that does is it reduces the sharpening to smooth areas. Like sky, like skin, it'll only sharpen the areas where there's more contrast, and I generally use about 70 or so. So plus 69 on this is going to be fine. And then if we click on the image, we see the before and the after. So there's how to make a very dramatic black and white image from a pretty dull landscape picture. Now let's save that as a preset. That's very simple to do. Choose the three dots, that's your settings, and go to create preset. I'm just going to call this black and white landscape. It's going to be saved in my user presets, although if you click user presets at the bottom you can set a folder if you wish. But user presets is fine. Press the tick and now that's saved that as a preset. So now if we go back to our folder, we can go to any of our other images and we can apply that black and white preset. So let's try this one first of all. To apply the preset, press the two little circles, and I'm already in user presets, but if not, choose the down arrow and choose the folder where you've saved it. So we called this black and white landscape, so let's press that, and now we have that preset very quickly applied. Press the tick. Now like any image, a preset can be a starting point, and once you've applied the preset, you can go back into any of your parameters and make changes. So I'm going to go back into the light and bring the exposure up a little bit on this particular image. Let's choose another one, this one here. Press the presets icon and black and white and press the tick. Go back into our light. Look at the shadows there, they're very, very dark and it hasn't had the impact that we'd want. So let's increase our shadows and look what happens. Now we've really brought out the detail. In fact, we can make this image perhaps even a little bit lighter by choosing the exposure. And if you want to, you can add a little bit more contrast by increasing those whites up and pressing done. See how quickly we can make a difference to an image. Quite a dark image this one, so we're probably definitely going to lighten this up, but let's add the preset first of all, black and white landscape, press the tick, go to your light, increase your exposure and definitely increase your shadows. Let's continue, another dark image. Now, I've done this on purpose because I wanted to get some detail out of the sky. Now you know when you take a picture, you can always bring back the foreground. So let's do just that. Let's apply the preset first of all, go into our light, adjust the exposure, and again, let's bring the shadows up a little bit. And there we have our completed image. Let's do the final two. A brighter image this one, so when we apply the preset, it's pretty much good to go. And then again, a lighter image here. Let's apply the preset. And that looks great just as it is. Now don't forget, this preset is already in the details below in the information. You can download it. Just follow the instructions, it's very simple. As ever, leave me any comments or feedback in the comment section below. And I hope that was really useful for you. If it was, give me the thumbs up. It really does help. Subscribe if you want to see more of these types of videos. It's still a new channel and I'm still trying to grow it, so all your support is very, very much appreciated. Thanks again guys, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.